Hey y'all, how you doing? I'm doing okay. Having a little bit of issues with my blood pressure. Went to go pick up some tomatoes from my aunt and uncle, and while I was standing there talking to them, my blood pressure bottomed out and I damn near hit the ground. So instead of doing what I was going to do, which was go to the store, get the stuff to make salsa, come home and start making salsa, I've decided to come home, put the greenest tomatoes on the counter to ripen, and I'm picking everything up tomorrow from Walmart and going to can tomorrow and the next day. So doing all right now. I'm just going to try and do a little bit of laundry, I think. But I wanted to talk about something that I don't think people really talk about enough. It's not a surprise that I've had depression issues. I've talked about it on this channel almost every time I've made a video. But until my dad died, even though I'd be depressed, my world was always very ordered. I had my kids, I had my husband, and yeah, my medical issues made it very difficult to keep things perfect in the house, so they never were, but the place might have been cluttered in places, but it was still clean. It always has been. And then my dad died, and for a while, because the house that I was living in and my dad's house are so very close together, yeah, it's like 2.5 telephone poles between us. That's how we always measure it. When he passed, I was spending a few days at my house that I was living in with my husband, and then I'd come here and spend a few days so my dad's cat would not be alone, because she was 13, I think, at the time of Daddy's death. And, you know, she loved that man almost as much as I did. So I didn't want her to, you know, really go down the deep, dark spiral of depression like I did. So I split my time between the two places. And as I've stated before, February of 2016 is when I finally permanently started moving down here to my house. And I was doing everything I needed to. The house was in order. I kept things up. The dishes were always done. There was always fresh food. You know, I was taking care of the cat. Everything was rolling along normal. Until 2019. Now, I had been battling the depression, been in counseling, all of that during that 3-year period. And up until 2019, there was someone still down here. My ex was still up at the other house. until the end of, well, middle of June of 2019. So he would come down and we would have dinner and watch movies, you know, that kind of thing. So I still had contact with people. I'd have, you know, some of my friends would come down, and, you know, you don't want friends coming down when your house is a disaster. So everything was well kept and all was fine. And then I truly became alone down here. And at first, man, I fucking loved it. I really did. I had my cats. There was no one around to irritate me, no one to stress me out. I didn't have to worry about anybody or anything at that point. And then the depression started getting worse again. I had to go back on medication. I needed to start counseling again. But I was kind of dragging my feet as well. But my head was such a swirling abyss of hate and loathing and sadness and grief and guilt that it started to affect everything in my life. And up until this point, that point that it happened, I didn't understand that the way you feel inside and the way you think can greatly affect your physical world. Because around the end of 2019, the loneliness, the depression, the stress of 7 cats that I wasn't prepared to handle alone, everything, my medical, my back, my neck, all of that just kind of put me into this funk. And instead of taking the dish that I just used and washing it and putting it in the drainer, I would get myself something to eat, whether it's a bowl of cereal, whatever, and then I'd put the dishes in there and they'd sit. I wouldn't clean them. So the dishes started piling up. And then the trash started piling up because we don't have anything anywhere to have our trash picked up. We have to physically take it from my house, 8 miles to Fort Chiswell to the dump. And because of my back, that's usually pretty difficult. So trash started piling up. The dishes weren't getting done. The living room, everything started piling up in the living room. When I say everything, I mean boxes and mail and clutter. And it was all piling up everywhere. I tried to keep things from being bad, but I failed miserably. The only place I kept in really good, clean condition was the bedroom, which is where I spent most of my time. And And then eventually even that started getting bad. By the end of 2020, every room in the house was a disaster. You don't want to admit that your house has now become a fucking dump. But I realize now that my mind was in such a mess that my outward manifestation of that was mess in here, mess out here, all around me. And then when my counseling started working and my mind started getting better ordered, I would come home and I would look around and I would get that despair, because where the fuck do you even start when every room looks like a tornado went through it and there is so much piled up? You have the tendency to freeze and not know where the hell you even start to try to get this mess cleaned up. And that ends up adding into depression. It really is a very, very vicious and toxic cycle. I've been doing better. I keep my dishes done, except for the moment where I was doing my canning. I haven't washed all the pots from that, but I will be later. You know, my kitchen is fine. I do have some boxes from Amazon piled up right by my recliner in the other room, in my living room. But for the most part, my living room is fine. My bedroom, it's not bad. I've got a pile of clothes because I got to do laundry, but for the most part, my bedroom's good. The rest of the house I'm still working on, but really, I just... After having a really good session with my counselor one day, I just came home and I grabbed a bag and started putting shit in it, just the trash, piling up the papers to go through, making piles of what needed to go to what room, what needed to be thrown away, and just slowly, with just one bag. And then that bag got filled up, and I would close it up and put it, and I'd take it out the next time I went out. And I got another bag, and I still don't want people at my house because it's still a mess. It's embarrassing. But when you've lived with the depression for so long and you have physical limitations, it really, really makes cleanup 1,000 times harder. It's hard for me to even stand and cook a meal without having to sit down and take a rest. So when I have to clean, I work for 10 minutes and I have to rest for 30. But I do it, and I do it as best I can. Believe me when I say your thinking will definitely be reflected in your surroundings. Mine has been fucked up for years, and now that I'm getting healthier and out of depression, I realize how bad I let things get, and I'm working on getting things clean. I mean, there was one point I couldn't even get to my treadmill, which is right beside the bed. I had so much shit thrown over there, boxes and just everything. Not food items, but just paper, trash. You know, I'd get something and it'd have paper on it, and I would just throw it over there, and I'd throw the boxes over there. And I mean, I couldn't even get to my treadmill for like a year and a half. And I know you women know what I mean. When you have boxes, you don't want to get rid of them because it's a good box, and that can come in handy for a present or something that needs to be sent. But I've been making myself break down those boxes so I can get them to the dump. But that's a hard thing for some of us to do. I tell you, some of those boxes are, you know, you look at it and you're like, man, that'd be perfect for... But I definitely have started at least trying to manage my world a little bit better. And here is starting to calm down a little more. And it's helping me see my surroundings need to be more ordered as well. And I'm fighting hard to keep that done. It's hard when you don't want to get out of bed. It's hard when you hurt just getting up to go to the bathroom. It's hard when your blood pressure bottoms out on you and you fucking hit the floor. Or have to catch yourself so you don't. It gets very frustrating having to overcome so much just to get your ass out of bed. And then you look around and you're like, I don't want to fucking clean house. I don't want to fucking do dishes. I don't want to cook. But I am forcing myself to do these things because I have to get back to the person I used to be. That was maybe not proud of her house when people came over, but at least not ashamed of it. Clutter's fine. You know, you have kids, you have clutter. I'm sorry. You're not supposed to live in a pristine place. That's for museums and shit. So, but my houses were always good. And I'm trying to get that back. All it takes is just one step. That one step will help you start getting things going in the right direction. With me, it started with that one step of grabbing a trash bag and filling it up and taking it to the dump. And then just keep the momentum going. And you'll get there. It ain't gonna be easy. Nothing worth having in this world is ever easy, but if you want your life back, you have to fight hard for it. Believe me, it's a worthwhile fight. So I'm going to leave it here. If you've watched this, I thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope you find some wisdom in my ramblings. I will talk to y'all in the next video, and I love y'all from the bottom of my heart. Bye.